What's going on, everyone? This is the Spegmeister, and welcome back to my Halo Anniversary Legendary walkthrough. On this episode, I'll be covering the second mission, Halo.
We're coming in too fast! Damn! Air brake failure! They flew too early! I'm losing her! Brace for impact! Chief? Chief, can you hear me? At last! Are you alright? Can you move? Yeah, there's the impact. There's nothing we can do. Warning. I've detected multiple Covenant dropships on approach. I recommend moving into those hills. If we're lucky, the Covenant will believe that everyone aboard this lifeboat died in the crash. I'm reading thousands of types of flora. The ring's ecosystem is incredibly sophisticated. Alert! Covenant dropship inbound. They must be looking for survivors. I recommend immediate evasion.
I like to go against Cortana's advice, and instead of fleeing this dropship, I like to hang around the area and deal with the enemies that are deployed by this spirit. That way I can get my hands on a plasma pistol right away.
Alert! Covenant dropship has detected us. Here they come.
So pick up either a needler or a plasma pistol. Either will suffice for this first engagement. Once you deal with those elites, just check across the other side of this chasm to see if any grunts have run across. That is, if you haven't taken them out quick enough. Once that first group is dead, then a couple banshees will spawn in on the far side. Now, you don't have to take out both of these banshees, you only need to deal with one of them, and once that is destroyed, then the other will just flee the area and completely ignore you. But if you do happen to deal with both of those banshees, go back to the Bumblebee and replenish on any ammo, grenades, and health if you need to. Also, don't forget about picking up a plasma pistol. approaching this narrow passageway, there will be a few grunts led by one elite. Sometimes this elite will either be a major or minor, so it's really just a matter of luck depending on if you get a weaker elite.
I'm reading a lifeboat beacon over the next hill. We should check to see if there are any survivors.
Coming up on this tower, there will be a few Marines defending the area, and a few Covenant will have been deployed by this dropship. But they don't know we're here until we open fire on them. Fortunately, if they get distracted, you can just run up behind them and smack them in the back.
It's a mess, sir. We're scattered all over this valley. Call for evac, but until you show up,
Don't worry, Sergeant. We'll stay here until evac arrives.
Heads up! I got a Covenant dropship heading in. Over here.
This is an area that you can actually bypass if you're speedrunning this level, or if you just simply choose not to get the Warthog. But since I want to defend these Marines, what we're going to do is just run up to the dropships and stick the elites right away. And then we can just mop up the grunts and jackals that are still left alive. If you need to get health, there's a health pack by that Bumblebee.
Some help over here. Another bandit dropping in behind us. They're trying to flank us.
Now, when it comes to dealing with the final two dropships, it's best to hang around at this tower and defend the Marines. Now, fortunately, when it comes to dealing with the elites, they're really easy to deal with if they start running up on this ramp or the ramp on the other side. Just keep a good eye on your motion tracker to see where they're coming from so that you don't get flanked.
Look, more lifeboats. They're coming in fast. If those lifeboats make it down, the Covenant are going to be right on top of them.
Bowhammer, we need you to disengage your Warthog. The Master Chief and I are going to see if we can save some soldiers. Roger, Cortana. Okay, Charlie Team, Warthog deployed. Saddle up and give them hell. Roger, Bowhammer. Stand by to evac survivors and transport them to safety. That's affirmative. Echo 419 staying on station. Bowhammer out. The Master Chief and I need some backup. Can you spare a few men?
Sure, Cortana. All right, who's in? Volunteers step up. On the double. The rest of you, get to the dropship. Ready to roll.
This cave is not a natural formation. Someone built it, so it must lead somewhere. I've hacked into the Covenant battle network. They're actually broadcasting tactical data on unencrypted channels. We should show them who they're dealing with. Master Chief, I'm going to use your suit's transcom system to monitor their chatter.
Going into this area, there's quite a few enemies that we have to tackle. Mostly it consists of grunts and at least a few elites and a few jackals. The key is just to keep your Wardog moving around. Don't let the grunts target you with their grenades or the jackals with their overcharge shot. In these confined areas, it's quite easy to try to splatter the enemies as well. Some of the spaces are actually a little tight for the Wardog, but if you can squeeze it in there, you can take out a few enemies that way as well. Unfortunately, I lost my passenger from a needler.
There must be some mechanism to cross this chasm. Look for a control panel or switch.
So at this point we have to disembark from our Wardog and go activate a switch so that we can find a way across this chasm. So what I did there was I smacked that first elite in the back, and if you can get a plasma grenade off right away, you should be able to stick one of the elites, and that took both of them out, fortunately, on my end.
There's new traffic on the Covenant battle network. A lot more crew made it off the Autumn than I had predicted. The captain really gave them hell. If we can find Captain Keyes and the other survivors, we have a chance to coordinate an effective resistance. Survivors detected. Marines are concealed in those rocks.
So what I like to do is come to this area first where the Marines are hidden in these rocks. And what's really nice about these Marines is that one of them has a sniper rifle. And I want to keep him alive if possible. And to trigger the spirit dropships to enter the area, we'll have to move into these rocks. Just a little ways in order to do so.
Over here!
And what I like to do on this section is just meet the spirit dropships and splatter the enemies as they exit. It makes very quick work of the elites, jackals, and grunts that you have to deal with.
Hey, leave some for me!
As long as you keep moving around, you shouldn't have to worry about your gunner. He should be able to stay alive.
Stay on time! Oh man, what a miss!
And that was really unfortunate that my Wardog flipped and I lost my gunner. But fortunately, even though the enemies in this final dropship are a little bit more tougher to deal with, you should be able to get them quite easily with the Wardog. And I think there's still one enemy that is roaming around. It might have been the grunt that I lost track of earlier. There he is.
Echo 419 to Cortana, come in.
We read you, Echo 419. We have survivors and need immediate dust-off.
Roger, Cortana. On my way. I've spotted additional lifeboats in your area. One near the cliff edge. And another near the head of the river. Hard to see from my altitude, but it looks like there are more survivors. Acknowledged. We're on our way.
Let's roll!
Here I like to disembark the Wardog as I come into this area, and what I'm going to do is try to snipe as many elites and jackals as I can from this position.
Whoa! I see him! Amigos! Found them!
I see that Jackal has an overcharged shot waiting, so I'm going to grenade him. That worked out really well because that got him out of cover. Once you got most of the enemies taken care of, you can go ahead and get back in the Wardog, and then we'll go into the hills to meet up with the Marines.
There are some Marines hiding in the hills above the structure.
It's him! You're a sight for sore eyes, Chief. We're in a bad way. We've got wounded here.
I'll call in a dropship to pick them up.
And with this area, there's just one Covenant dropship that will deploy in this area. I consider this to be the easiest area to clear out of the 3 evac zones. So just like the last area, just try to splatter as many enemies as you can with the Warthog. And that should make very quick work of these guys.
I'm on it.
And that should be it.
Echo 419 to Cortana. Bowhammer's on station and ready for another pickup. Affirmative, Bowhammer. We're ready for dust-off. Approach when ready. We're going to look for the last lifeboat, Echo 419. Good luck.
Warning. I picked up reports that the Covenant has located and secured the Pillar of Autumn's crash site. The good news is the captain is still alive. The bad news is that the Covenant have captured the entire surviving command crew. Let's hurry and find the final lifeboat so we can link up with the rest of the survivors. Lifeboat detected. No sign of survivors.
This lifeboat is trash, Chief. There are weapon and supplies, but no bodies.
There are 2 ways to approach all these areas when you come into the second half of this level.
Cover in that structure. Let's check it out.
So with this area, I like to come over to this side where I have a little bit more of a high ground to work with. Sometimes the elites can be a little bit of a difficult issue to deal with, because if you miss one of your sniper shots, they like to dodge into cover. And even if you throw grenades, they'll even dodge those as well. Once you take out a good number of enemies, you can go ahead and move forward with the Warthog. And what I'm going to do is move over to the other side because there are still plenty of enemies over here that we can clear out.
Back me up! Throw!
Search the interior of those structures before we leave.
So you'll find the Marines down below, and you'll have to kill all the Covenant before the Pelican arrives, of course, just like in all the other areas. And I suspect the final two enemies are still somewhere below.
Secure the area before the dropship arrives.
There's one of them, and the other is now on top. I think an unsuspecting jackal might have made his way out. Nope, it's just a grunt.
That's the last of them. Roger that. I'm on my way.
New traffic on the Covenant BattleNet. I found Captain Keyes. He's being held on a Covenant cruiser, the Truth and Reconciliation, a ship I disabled before we abandoned the Autumn. The Truth and Reconciliation touched down on a desert plateau roughly 300 kilometers upspin.
Kick ass!
There's our ride. Get aboard and let's get out of here.
Welcome aboard, Master Chief. Ready for dust off.
Hit the gas!
We should move out, Lieutenant, and then we'll need your help on a rescue mission.
So there we have it. We got through the second mission of the campaign. It's a little bit more difficult because a lot of the engagements are out in the open. It's a lot harder to use your grenades when the enemies have all that space to maneuver and run around. So just make good use of the Warthog in this level. You should be able to get quite a few splatters if you are a really good driver or a really bad driver. So hopefully you guys found this guide to be really helpful, and thank you all for joining in with me on this episode, and hopefully I will catch you on the next guide.